knees in the fire. You can leave it all in your mind. It is all in your mind. Call in the backseat a friend. It is really all in your mind. It is all in your mind. You look so tired of living like a cat, 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 cat.
Hello, my name is Delilah, and today we're going to talk about captive breeding involving the California condor and the Channel Island fox. Get ready, kids, here we go.
The goal of captive breeding is to have a population that is demographically stable and genetically healthy.
Captive breeding programs help ensure the survival of endangered populations and species.
I'm on the pursuit of happiness, and I know everything that shines ain't always gonna be gold. I'll be fine once I get it. I'll be good.
Channel Island foxes are the top natural predator in California.
The Channel Island fox is the only carnivore found exclusively in California.
Slow chain may pull us apart, but will I get into your heart, baby? Don't you forget about me. Don't you forget about me. Will you stand above me? Could you be loved and be loved? Could you be loved and be loved? Don't let them fool you. Or even try to school you. Oh no.
In 1982, the California condor population dropped to a low of 22 condors. The tags allow us to identify each condor, since every condor is vital to the conservation of the species. Today, there are over 320 California condors. Half of them are flying free in the wild.
I don't practice Santeria. I ain't got no crystal ball. I had
A con of captive breeding is that captive breeding costs a lot of money, so the animals of each species aren't cared for as well as they could be, which is bad.
Many fragmented populations require human intervention to maintain a genetically diverse population. Captive breeding programs help maintain species that are going endangered while in the wild, and they also help reintroduce species that have been bred in captivity go back.
Another benefit of captive breeding is being able to observe and research the animal's behavior in breeding. Okay, are you filming? Mm-hmm. Okay. So with ecotourism, it's really important for developing countries to be able to bring in a revenue, because a lot of these endangered species are exotic or unusual, and that draws in people, which helps the country's economy, such as countries like Costa Rica, and they are developing countries, and the help of these endangered animals really helps bring in their revenue and helps develop their countries further into a more industrial state. Another important part of the endangered species is that they're used as an indicator. For example, the bald eagle is still endangered in California and around the United States. But the importance behind these bald eagles going endangered was that it was an indicator that there was an issue going on with the chemical DDT.
Captive breeding can help conserve endangered species.
The captive breeding. So one big pro is that you can control which animals are breeding with each other. That way you don't get any inbreeding or line breeding. Inbreeding is where like brothers and sisters mate. Line breeding would be like a mother and a son or a father and a daughter, which is okay but not recommended, especially if you're trying to save genetic diversity. So that's one big plus, is if they're in the wild and there's just a few animals left, then maybe that inbreeding or line breeding could happen, but in a captive situation they can control that. So some of the cons to captive breeding is that you get a bottleneck effect with the genetics, so there's very low genetic diversity, but it just depends on the type of program and the type of animal that you're working with. Obviously, if there's not enough animals in the population, or even if they're going extinct, then you're gonna have to deal with that bottleneck effect. But yeah, so another con to captive breeding is those animals not being able to survive in the wild. So a lot of zoos try not to have human interaction. It can rely on humans a lot, which isn't good, or they become nuisance animals, which is an animal that takes over in a human populated area and becomes a problem. Like if there was a mountain lion that was raised and bred in captivity and then they try to release it to the wild, it might not be able to adjust well in facilities that are outside of the normal zoo, because the animals in the zoo are obviously going to be accustomed to humans. So they actually have separate breeding facilities to help. If breeding can be a good thing if you have enough animals and you have the resources and the research to do it, but it can also go wrong.
I wanna go, oh, what you say when you gonna let me.
What's the monkey?
Monkey butts.
Monkey butts.
I think he hurt himself.